Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game Esoteric and a continuing series on this Steam Deck. More importantly, how to get emulators set up on it and what games you should be playing when you get those emulators set up. And we've already done a video on the recommended 3D games you can play in MAME, so of course we got to take a look at the 2D side of things today, because for every 3D game that works in MAME, there's 10 in 2D. Before we get too far involved though, do me a huge favor, go down below, hit like and subscribe, and ring that notification bell, definitely helps us out. And if you feel so inclined to want to support the channel, we got a Patreon link down below as well. But there's an absolute metric crap ton of amazing games you can play on MAME on your Steam Deck. But right off the top, one that I know not many people mention is Warrior Blade Rasten Saga 3. This is one of the Taito games that runs in widescreen by having two monitors set up side by side in arcades, and it transposes to the Steam Deck absolutely perfectly. Sure, you're going to have some letterboxes on the top and the bottom, but otherwise docked, handheld, however you play it, Warrior Blade is an absolute banger of a beat 'em up and one of the best games I think Taito ever made. And this is a very rare and very expensive arcade board as well, so 9 times out of 10 if you're going to play this game, it's going to be on MAME, because I don't believe it's been ported to any other piece of hardware outside of emulation. But when I mean this game is just 10 out of 10 good, I 100% stand by that opinion, and because it is a 2-player game as well, you can throw your Steam Deck in the dock, grab 2 controllers, and play with a friend, and you're going to have an absolute blast playing this. But I am curious what your favorite 2D beat-em-up game of all time is, so leave me a comment down below. I would want to know. I hope to hear some people say this game, because for me it's very high up on the list, and it's one of the examples of why emulation in MAME is so important, so great on Steam Deck, because good luck finding a Warrior Blade cabinet anywhere in North America, or even Japan for that matter. It's a very, very rare cabinet, and it's not one that you're going to run across any day out of the week. But on MAME, on your Steam Deck, it is just so good. It's like a 35 to 40 minute game, great for a short plane ride, play a couple games, you'll be good to go. But trust me, Warrior Blade Rasten Saga 3, 10 out of 10, cannot recommend it enough. Now moving on to a completely different genre, but another deep cut game, is the Outfoxies by Namco. This is basically Smash Brothers before Smash Brothers would ever exist, except it is a 2D experience only with 2 players. But it is just so good. The concept is simple, and in execution learning the game, it's deep and it's going to take you some time. You have your player, you have your opponent player, you have a giant arena to fight in with all of these weapons, and then pure chaos ensues. The levels break, they blow up, they flood, there's so many different environmental things you have to worry about, all while trying to manage your life and kill your opponent. You'll see here we got swept up in this water, and we're right next to electricity. Those things do not mix. You can get guns, you can get machine guns, grenades, rocket launchers, you can have sharks bite your enemy. It is all things that happen. And a character like Dweeb here is just a sentient monkey in a tuxedo with a bowler hat on, and if you don't love that, I don't know how you could love any game whatsoever. But as we move on into another stage here with this giant whale suspended in this museum, this game just has something going on in every square inch of the map, and you need to be worried about all of it. The fire, the flooding, the weapons, your opponent. It is chaos, but when you have a second player, it is so much fun. You'll see there that Betty Doe just got bitten by a shark, and that's so much fun in this game. The sheer chaos going on. Play this at a game night, throw your Steam Deck in a dock, invite some friends over, open some beers. I guarantee you're going to have fun. But the CPU does give you a decent challenge as well, so if you're on the train, traveling around, got your Steam Deck in your hand, it's also a game you're going to really enjoy playing. But if you like 2D fighting games, if you like Smash Brothers, if you like these sort of experiences, and you've never heard about Foxies before, do me that favor and play it. But leave me a comment down below and tell me, did you know this game existed? Is it new to you? Have you played it before? I would be curious, because I'm always trying to tell more people they have to play the Outfoxies. It really is that incredibly good. But trust me, give it a shot. If you don't like it, I'm probably going to judge you for it, to be honest with you. All jokes aside, moving on, of course we gotta have some Sega on this list, and we gotta have a racing game, and I'm gonna go with Outrunners. Absolutely incredible game, one of my favorites of all time, and one that hasn't been ported to any home console really. So your best bet is the Steam Deck, but do be aware that this may run in dual screen side by side, and you do need to adjust that on your deck. But honestly, Outrunners is just a spectacular game. I love this one so much more than Outrun or Turbo Outrun, and those are incredible games as well, but for my money, Outrunners is the best 2D sprite scaling racing game Sega ever made, and it also has one of my favorite soundtracks of all time. So go ahead and listen for like 30 seconds or so, and I'll come back and show you some more games you need to play today. Great soundtrack, great sound effects, an absolutely great game, and take my word for it, if you've never played Outrunners before, you 100% have to give it a go. Just be aware that you do need to play around with MAME settings and get that to a single screen, because if you just launch it right off the top, you're going to be seeing two side-by-side instances of Outrunners run. But honestly, if you plug it into your television with a dock, that's going to be a good thing, because you can configure controls to the second player's controller, and you can play side-by-side heads-up Outrunners, and that is the way this game should be played. It is so much better with friends, but Sega did everything right here. Absolutely incredible sprite scaling technology, a colorful graphical look to it, amazing courses and stages. This is my second favorite Outrun game of all time, only behind the full 3D Outrun 2 on arcades and Xbox and PlayStation 2. But trust me, if you've never checked this game out before, this is why emulation exists, and this is why the Steam Deck is so incredible. You can be playing Outrunners in the car while somebody else drives you around, and you can pretend that this is how it actually is out there in the real world. Sometimes I think video games are more entertaining than what we actually have, but if you want to go drift your car around a corner, just don't tell them I told you so. Now, sticking with Sega and sticking with sprite scaling, but moving over to a completely different genre and vibe, is Alien 3: The Gun. This is a rail shooter with 2D horror elements in it. Nothing like Outrunners whatsoever, but another game that I don't hear many people mention. Now, there are going to be a few obvious picks in this video, but there's going to be a lot of deep cuts as well, and this is one of my favorite 2D rail shooters of all time. I love the Aliens movies, I love the horror genre in light gun games, and I love Sega sprite scaling, so this game has absolutely everything I need to be a very happy gamer, and I think it's going to have what you need too. And of course, because we do have the trackpad on the Steam Deck, you can play handheld mode and it works perfectly fine. Because this was not using a raster light gun sensor, this is using XY potentiometer data analog controls, so you can do that with a mouse or an analog stick, and you're basically playing the game as it was intended to play. But this game has such a vibe. The sprites are incredible, all the scaling is great, the environments, the mood, the theming. This sells the Alien universe so well, and it is one of my favorite Alien games of all time as well. And it's just one of those games that works on Steam Deck so perfectly. It requires no setup whatsoever, the controls just transpose over perfectly, and you will be playing this about 2 seconds after you hit play game, coin up with some virtual quarters and start blowing up some aliens. And the gore effects in this game are incredible. And stick with it. The opening is great, but as you get further into the game, and trust me, it is hard, once you get into the interior environments, it gets even better. This meat room here with all these different bulls and cows hanging from the hooks, it is 100% a deep horror vibe, and it's one that I think a ton of people are going to enjoy. So take my word for it. Play Alien 3: The Gun. If you don't like it, you get your money back because you pay me nothing for this. That is a $0 guarantee, and I probably make that joke too many times now. But this is as good as it gets for 2D horror light gun games. 10 out of 10, Wayland Yutani Corporation, are you hiring? I could use a job. Now, speaking of the horror genre, but moving over to a different type of gameplay entirely, we have Night Slashers, which is one of my favorite deep cut beat 'em up games of all time. Now, this is definitely going to be something that if you love the beat 'em up genre, you're absolutely going to gravitate towards, and if you love horror and gore inside of that genre, you're going to be over the moon about. It's everything you want in a beat 'em up. Data East nailed this here, and I just love the aesthetic. These zombies coming out of body bags as they roll around the ground like grubs. This entire game, the graphics are amazing, the gameplay is incredible. You get to fight a ghost helicopter. It's got everything you crave and more, and it's one of my favorite soundtracks of all time. Listen for 30 seconds and I'll be back with more games.
You caught me on guard! Forward! You caught me on guard!
I just can't get enough of the Night Slasher soundtrack. It is so good. It's kind of like a jazzy horror theme, and I love all the bosses as well. As this mad scientist comes in, just hacking apart a zombie with the scalpels. It is so much fun. The graphics in this game just 100% work, and it's married to absolutely incredible beat 'em up mechanics. Kind of feels closest to Final Fight in my opinion, but I love as he dies, he just melts away into a skeleton. And you have 3 different characters to choose from as well, all with different super moves. And just like pretty much every other arcade game on this list here, It's just going to be more fun with 2 players, and that's what the great thing about the Steam Deck is. It doesn't just need to be a handheld single player experience. You dock it, you go, you get some friends and controllers over, it's going to be great. And where else do you get to fight Teen Wolf in his flesh? Not sure if that's Michael J. Fox, but it's what it reminds me of, and trust me, play this game because it's absolutely perfect in my opinion. Now moving on to a 3D and 2D look, we've already done Outrunners, but we're going to move over to Taito with Galactic Storm. And in my opinion, this is the best sprite scaling ever put to an arcade game, but leave me a comment down below and tell me if you disagree and tell me what your pick would be. But as you go through the first stage here, you have full range of motion in 3D but only using 2D assets. You can rotate around 360 degrees as this spaceship kind of recedes into the background around you. It is such an incredible look, and when you go into these different transporters from one level to another, the illusion of this being in a 3D screen space is perfect. It's only sprites and background layers, nothing else going on, but it just 100% works, and it's married to absolutely incredible action. Now of course this is just going to be a single player game, so it's going to be one whether you're on the couch or on the go, you're going to be playing it alone, but we do need those in arcade experiences sometimes, and Galactic Storm just has everything I need. All of the different levels to navigate, all of the different ships to shoot, the different graphical styles in each level, it just all marries together to be such an incredible experience, and it is one that I love. And it's also a game that I don't really hear mentioned as much as I wish I did. It has been ported to a few different consoles, but I think the arcade version is still the best, and it 100% works perfectly on your Steam Deck in MAME. So if you've never heard of this game before, if you've never played it before, if it's been years since you played it, 100% throw it into your Steam Deck and give it a go. I think you're going to love it. Now sticking with sprite scaling and sticking with Taito, we also have Super Chase. This is basically Outrunners meets kind of the Taito aesthetic. Chase HQ, all of these games have been hits for Taito for the longest time, but I love Super Chase the most out of any game in the series. It has everything I need, but it's not a racing game, it's more of a vehicular combat game, where the entire hook being is you need to get to the enemy vehicle before your timer runs out, and then you basically need to have a demo derby style battle with them to get their life off, because you'll see here we finally found our opponent's car, and you need to save those turbos to smash into the back or side of the vehicle to do that damage. Hit the car enough and you're going to move on to the next stage. But I just love this game. It's bright, it's vibrant, all of the music is incredible, and the handling works so well in this full 2D screen space. Even things like having your windshield shot out by that helicopter and having to avoid all of these different grenades falling down. It just 100% works, and on the Steam Deck screen this game looks incredible as well with all of these sprite scaling. And I will say that Taito always has amazing soundtracks, but Super Chase is definitely one of my favorites. So go ahead and listen for 30 seconds and I'll come back and show you one more Taito game before we move on to other developers. But enjoy! So jazzy and so good, but I have to give you one more Taito 3D scaling game, and that is because I love all of Taito's 3D scalers, but Night Striker is my favorite out of the bunch, and it is kind of the original for them. Now let me tell you right now, the PCBs for this game are two things. One, extremely large, and two, extremely expensive. I have had a few come across my desk in my time, and I made some custom control and jam harnesses for a few people for them, and I absolutely love this game. But if you want to play it, the best way is to emulate it, because you're talking about over $2,000 for an original arcade PCB last time I checked. But this game has everything. It's got awesome action, it's got this really fun futuristic vibe going on, and it just looks incredible on the Steam Deck with all of these neons and pastels that Taito's artist chose for it. And while I'm not going to give you a taste of the soundtrack because I'm waiting for another game, Zuntata did an absolute banger of a job making Night Striker one of the best games that Taito's ever done as far as music is concerned. And the best part about a game like this is it takes like 12 minutes to play, and a lot of the games that I'm recommending to you on these videos aren't just some of my favorites of all time, they're also games that I think work really well when you're just on your commute or on your lunch break. Pick up your Steam Deck, play Night Striker, and have an absolute blast doing it. All of the sprite scaling is incredible, the graphics, the soundtrack, the gameplay. This is 100% in my opinion the total package. Leave me a comment down below and tell me what your favorite Taito scaling game is as well, because I would be curious to know. Sega gets all the credit for sprite scaling back in the 80s and 90s, but Taito was right alongside of them doing an incredible job. But now it's time to change genres completely again, and I had to have one puzzle game on this list, and that's Puzzle Upoko, made by Cave, the company most known for doing bullet hell shmups. And just as a head up, there are no shmups in this video whatsoever. I think I'm going to do a second part just talking about the best shmups to play in MAME, but tell me down below if you'd want to watch a video like that, because I would be curious before I make it, because shmups either do really well or terribly for me on this channel, so I'm never quite sure. But this is basically a variation of something like Puzzle Bobble, but you are dropping these bubbles onto the playfield using that plunger to kind of dictate where they're going. There's so many different breakable objects and so many different strategies. Puzzle Upoko is the type of game that you pick up and think you're going to play for 10 minutes but end up wasting 2 hours on, in the best possible sense of the term wasting. But it's also just a great game to play on the Steam Deck. It kind of feels like a mobile experience, except it is a full arcade release, and again, absolutely spectacular soundtrack, so charming. Listen for 30 seconds and trust me, I still got more games to show you. Just a really solid soundtrack, and it's a really awesome game, and if you're looking for a new puzzle game, Puzzle Upoko might become your new favorite. I mean, it is the only one with a cat that dances, and that's got to be worth something, but tell me down below if you've ever heard of this game before. I would be curious. Now moving on to a side-scrolling beat-em-up action platformer, the Cliffhanger Edward Randy from Data East is another absolute blast of a 2D game you can play on your Steam Deck, and it's another one of those deeper cuts. I don't hear many people mention this game whatsoever, but it is 100% worth playing. It's not a traditional beat-em-up, it plays more like a Contra, except Edward Randy here has a whip, not firearms, and it does have some of that 2D sprite scaling you know I love so much, and I know you love as well. It is from start to finish straight up action-packed. This game never lets up, it never stops moving, it never stops showing you something new to do, and that is why I've loved this so much. And of course, like most arcade games I've shown already, it is a two-player experience, so you can have fun with a friend here as well. But this game just has everything I crave. If you enjoy Contra or a game like that, and you've never played Edward Randy, you'll 100% owe it to yourself to do so. I love the artwork, I love the graphics. Data East games always had a special sort of different look to them, and this game is no different whatsoever. All of these different enemies, the bosses you face, the music, the sound effects, the level design, it is just that good, and it is a very challenging game as well. You're not going to be putting real quarters in, so you don't have to worry about the money, but if you ever wanted to get a 1cc out of this game, you would be practicing for months on end. But it is just another one of those games. I love it, especially the boss design here. This biomechanical head floating around with two hands trying to take this biplane down as you hit the metal off of him to see another metal skeleton underneath it. It is such a look and feel. It's one of those games you're never going to forget playing, and trust me, if you like 2D action games and you've never played it before, just give it a shot. It's got everything you need, everything I love, and I can't recommend this one enough. But now onto a more obvious pick, but one that if you've never played you 100% should, is Golden Axe: The Revenge of Death Adder. This is definitely, in my opinion, the best 2D beat 'em up Sega's ever made in the Golden Axe franchise, and one that I wish was more readily available, because it has been quasi-ported to a few different machines, but honestly it's still not the easiest game to access and play. And again, if you want to own an original arcade PCB, you better bring your wallet. It's going to cost you a lot of money, but here on Steam Deck, on MAME, it just 100% works, and 100% works so well. If you didn't notice already at the top of the screen, this is a 4-player ROM, which means that if you throw your Steam Deck in a dock and you get 4 controllers going, you and 3 of your closest friends can get drunk off some cheap beer and start beating up some tree trunks. It is just as good as you've heard, and it is even better on the Steam Deck in my opinion, and it does have one of the best Sega soundtracks of all time as well, so go ahead and listen for 30 seconds, and trust me, more games. This has such a good soundtrack, and it drives me nuts that Sega barely does anything with the Revenge of Death Adder. This should have been on every console back in the day. You should have been able to buy a copy on the Sega Saturn and a compilation on the Dreamcast, but for some reason Sega does not like making its fans happy. But leave me a comment down below and tell me your favorite Sega arcade game of all time, because I would be curious about that as well. But if you want to have a game night, you want to have a fun 4-player arcade game to play, just throw on the Revenge of Death Adder with 4 controllers, and trust me, you're going to absolutely love it. But if you're not into fantasy vibe beat 'em ups, I got one more game to show you, and one that I try to get everyone to play, and that is Violent Storm by Konami. This might be my favorite beat 'em up of all time, and it's down to just the soundtrack alone. Now don't get me wrong, the gameplay mechanics in this are epic as well, but it has one of my favorite soundtracks ever put to an arcade game, and I will let you listen to that in just a little bit. But this game has everything I love. It's got giant sprites, a really fun kind of goofy vibe, and all of those classic Konami colors that were kind of both neon and pastel at the same time. But what is color and graphics if the beat 'em up mechanics are not good? And let me tell you, in Violent Storm I absolutely love them. All of the hits have a good impact to them. You don't really need to be perfectly lined up to hit your opponent, you just need to be close, and all of the combat and action just feel so much fun. And that's the great part about Violent Storm, is you're just having a fun time the entire time you play. Even if you do pick up baby pigs and they turn into footballs, that seems a little bit cruel to the pigs, but hey, in a fight you do what you need to do. And when I say this has my favorite arcade soundtrack of all time as far as Konami is concerned, I 100% mean it. So go ahead and listen for 30 seconds. I'll come back and show you more Violent Storm, but take my word for it, this music is just straight up gold. In my opinion, the second of the two songs might be the best soundtrack Konami ever did as far as a single track is concerned. But if you like beat 'em ups and you've never played Violent Storm, 100% do it, and leave me a comment down below and tell me what you think. But those are my recommendations for games to play in 2D on MAME, and trust me, this was the hardest episode to make so far. I could have made this 2 hours long with different picks, but comment down below and tell me what you think I missed. I would be curious, just be nice about it. But I'll have another video on the Steam Deck on Saturday and videos throughout the week as well, but we're done and we'll see you next time. Bye bye.